So what we'd like to do today, and I'm just going to go ahead and briefly introduce the panelists here. As I was introduced, my name is Steve Jordan. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the National Independent Automobile Dealers Association. We represent close to 20,000 dealers in all 50 states. And just a little background about the NIADA. We have an infrastructure of 47 state associations at the state level. So we are the mouthpiece for independent dealers at the federal level, and by extension at the state level through our state associations to discuss regulatory issues, legislative issues, operational issues, like some of those that we're going to discuss today. And one of the things that is always so important to the independent dealer is the relationship that we have with our auctions and our how we source our vehicles, where we buy our vehicles, how we sell them. And so today, what I'd like to do is introduce the panelists to my right, your left, Chris Martin, Keith Hagler, and Arlan Kuehn. And being in the car business for 6 years as I was, I know it's a lot easier to introduce yourself than to have somebody else do it for you. So I'm just gonna pass it to you guys. If you guys would just take a couple of seconds, introduce yourselves, talk a little bit about the kind of dealership you have, the different flavor of business model that you have, and a little bit more about yourself so these guys can know a little bit more about you.
Good morning. I'm Chris Martin. Name of our dealership is Easy Auto. We're in Fayetteville, North Carolina. We've been in business for almost 21 years now. We're not a very large dealership. We sell about 30 vehicles a month. I am the current president of NIADA, and I'll be the outgoing president here shortly and moving into the chairman's position. I've been with NIADA on various committees for probably close to 10 years now, and I've been coming to your auctions for probably 15 years or so. But I guess that's it in a nutshell.
Short and sweet, that's how we like it.
There you go. I'm sorry, Keith. One other thing too, I guess that's relevant is we are Lease Here, Pay Here, which is kind of unusual. We're not. We do a true lease, and it is a buy here, pay here type model, but using a lease, contracts and documents. Sorry, sir. No
Keith.
Problem. Okay. My name is Keith Hagler. I'm from a town, it's up by Austin, population about 13,000. We have a store there that's been averaging over the years about 100 cars a month. We've just opened another store in Georgetown, Texas, which is near that. And we have 2 more stores opening in the next 90 days. So we're kind of in expansion mode. I've been in business for 28 years in the buy here, and all buy here, pay here, and that's all I've ever done is the buy here, pay here business. I'm the president-elect for NIADA, and I'm excited about being here today to share with y'all because auctions are a big, big part of our business.
Good morning. My name is Arlan Kuehn. I'm owner of Kuehn Auto Sales in South Sioux City, Nebraska. I've been a dealer for 40 plus years, and I've noticed a lot of changes in those years. And I also wanted to thank Car Conference for having us here today. That's really great that you're here to help us, sponsor us. NIADA appreciates that. I'm Senior Vice President of NIADA and going to be President-elect in June. And I've been on their boards for several years, and we're a big part of the dealers all over the country and the auctions. We really appreciate everything the auctions do for us. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. And before we get started, I do want to say a special thank you to Ed Bobbitt and Mike Antic and NAAA and the IARA for putting together what appears to be another successful event. We always look forward to this event to mingle with our counterparts in the industry. So I don't want to go into a lot of economic stuff. I mean, there's plenty of other economists in the industry that talk about, where we're at. The Dow's over 14,000 now. Steve Cortez did a great job talking about the China influence. But some of the subtle differences and changes that we've all recognized in the economy over the last several years do kind of play themselves out at the dealer level, specifically when the wholesale value and the wholesale pricing continues to increase as incrementally as it has. I think I saw a study recently that showed year over year increases of about 1.3%, which doesn't translate much, but I'd like to have these guys talk a little bit about some of the convergent economic issues that have maybe applied some pressure points to how your business is operating, specifically, lease here, pay here, buy here, pay here. Because I know one of the things that is obvious, or maybe not so obvious, is when in a buy here, pay here model, you have to pay incrementally more for your vehicle. A lot of times that affects how you're going to structure your deal for your customer, whether it's a higher down payment, a longer term, lower interest rate. But if you guys would, just talk about some of the kind of key economic pressures that you guys have seen over the past 2 or 3 years and how it's affected your day-to-day operations.
It certainly affected us. A few years ago, we actually went in and kind of revamped everything we were doing as far as our terms and pricing. We actually increased our pricing a little bit. We were probably on the low side, and as wholesale prices went up, it certainly got our attention and our margins got compressed. So we bumped our prices up. Here recently, we've actually started extending our term a little bit because customers were really struggling to afford the payment. It's just been tough, but we've increased our terms to try to make that a little more manageable for them and make it possible for us to deliver more units. As far as other issues, I guess, that we're dealing with due to that is we're certainly because of the increased pricing and low supply, we're traveling farther, looking harder, using technology more, and
So are you finding that you're having to keep fewer cars in inventory, and talk specifically about the dynamic between yourself and the wholesale auctions and some of those dynamics as well?
Here in the last year, we've actually been fortunate. Again, we've kind of again revamped what we were doing. We took a hard look at what we were doing because we were having a hard time keeping inventory on the lot, and again, we started using technology more. We're researching the cars more before we go to auction. We're working harder at our relationships with the auctions and with the dealers at the auctions, with various wholesalers. So it's forced us to take a fresh look at really everything we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Keith, do you have any feedback on that as a multi-point operator?
Right. Yeah, a lot. He pretty much commented on everything, but I guess over 28 years, I've seen a lot of changes in buy here, pay here. And I keep always saying I've never seen this, I've never seen this. And really the last few years, I never thought I would see buy here, pay here dealers paying what we have to pay for vehicles. It was always the cost of the car and try to get down what you could get in the car. And those days are completely gone. We'll never see them again because people are giving less money down and we're having to pay more for the cars. So we're having to raise our grosses, keep our margins correct, and we're just having to extend our term out further than I ever thought I would. I never thought I'd have the terms today that I have to put out there to compete with other dealers. Competition is more than it's ever been. As far as on the vehicles, we are having to buy higher mileage vehicles than we've ever bought before. I never thought I'd have the vehicles on my lot. Luckily, cars these days last a lot longer. They're making a lot better vehicle, I believe. And so higher mileage cars, we're buying that. We're having to go further, as Chris commented, to go out and find these cars. I've got more buyers than I thought I'd ever need, but I need more eyes out there to try to find the inventory for the competition. And one thing that I've really noticed too is our recon cost has really gone up. So I've had to hire some more techs to do the recon on these higher mileage cars that I'm having to buy. So,
Arlan, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, about 10 years ago, I got into the buy here, pay here. I was all retail before that, but I could see the changes coming, so I stepped into the buy here, pay here, and then within the last year, I also went with subprime. I'm using CAC, which has been a great help for us. We're ready to close our first pool within less than a year, so I'm happy about that. But it is harder to find the cars, like Chris and Steve said. But with a year's experience between the auctions, and I've got a couple wholesale buyers, and I've got a lot of dealer friends that are in new car business that I've made friends with through the years, so I do get some inventory from new car dealers, which helps me too. But I know we like the black book we put that on our phones so we can just scan a car at the auctions, and they've all done that now. You can walk up and scan the car. And Black Book also helps us on the cars we want to buy for credit acceptance, especially because they'll tell you basically what they fund and what's the more popular car. For example, just an example, a Dodge Caravan loaded versus a Town and Country van, there's a difference in the funding from CAC, which is, so we really keep an eye on that. My son is in the business. I've got a grandson in the business with me. And one of these days, my great-grandson, who's 6 years old, he says, "Grandpa, I'm going to be running your car lot pretty soon." So it's going to be a family operation, so it's kind of fun. But every day when he's with me, he says, "Grandpa, it's about time I start running this place, isn't it?" He's 6.5 years old. So, but no, and I really appreciate what the auctions have done, working with us. They've also, like with Next Gear Capital, for example, and AFC, and you can go to an auction now and you don't have to write a check at the time, which is really neat. And I was just talking with Brian Geithner from Next Gear this morning, and he says, "Arlan, we're going to have a program that we're going to try to work with CAC, where if you sell the car, we'll fund them, or they'll fund us, and we'll send them the title. It's all automatic. It's just paperless, which has really changed. Years ago we didn't have, all we had was a book to buy cars with. And today, with all the simulcast and smart auction, I mean, it's just great. I love it. It's a passion you got to have, but it's a great business. And like I say, I really thank the auctions because they've been really working hard, whether it be an independent or it's Mannheim or Odessa. They're all great to work with.
Well, and I think you raise a good point in terms of just the development of technology that has come into the marketplace over the last, even the last two or 3 years. And you're talking about how you have some of these applications on your phone. Why don't you guys talk a little bit about that and talk about how some of these new advancements in technology, whether you're buying cars online or doing different VIN scanners or different things that the auctions have advanced that you guys have assimilated into your operations. Talk a little bit about that.
It's been great for us. Obviously, we have other things to do than just buy cars, so anything that will allow us to get in and get out quicker, or either be able to just sit at our desk and buy a car, it's been fantastic. In fact, it's amazing. I actually bought a car on my phone for the first time about a week ago. But the technology's helped considerably. The condition reports and being able to pull those up, on your phone or at your desk. Simulcast, obviously, and the other online auction purchase vehicles have been great and a big help. I've got to get better at them. With us buying, we try to buy ACV vehicles somewhere in the $5,500 range. It's still been kind of tough for me to go online and buy those cars day in and day out without seeing them and feeling them. But still, you guys are continuing to provide the technology that get me closer and closer to doing that on a regular basis, and it definitely makes a difference.
Sure.
Yeah, we're just trying to enhance and get more into technology. I never thought I'd buy cars online, but it's come to that now. My price of my vehicle, each buy here, pay here dealer kind of has their own model of where they like to keep their cars, and ours has always been like a $3,500 car, which went to a $4,000 car, which to a $4,500 car, which now I'm probably paying $5,000 for that same car. So always trying to keep our car costs down and keep that model. And with that, that's always been my issue about buying online, buying that type of car. What type of vehicle am I going to get? Because I can't see it and feel it and walk around it if I was buying online. So we're really looking hard at that, about start purchasing cars online. My buyers all take advantage of the VIN scan and doing all that. They do a great job of that. It's just the technology's changing so fast. I never thought I'd see this in the car business. It's really exciting. It's great that the auctions are doing whatever they can do to help us, because as Arlan and Chris have both said, without y'all, I don't know what we would do for inventory.
So specifically, though, about what would you say the percentage of the vehicles that you buy and sell a month? And talk about just the volume that you guys are doing, maybe 100, 150 a month combined, buying and selling. What percentage would you say of the buying and selling that you're doing now, you're doing online?
Neat.
Yeah, just any of it.
it's a small percentage yet. We're just, like I say, all this new technology is, you've got to get it all working in our dealerships, you know, but it's coming to that. And like I say, the auctions are great. I can call an auction and say, what have you got in lease vehicles running? They'll send me reports or tell me what's, you know, what numbers are running. And I've been able to just go down and not spend as much time, just buy the cars I'm looking for, like the condition reports and that. And it's just new technologies they're doing. And I've noticed that most of the auctions we go to anymore, the managers are out there thanking the dealers, and that's important. You know, we really appreciate that when you thank us for being at your auction, because we do the same thing with our dealers, whether I'm selling a buy here, pay here car, whether I'm selling a retail purchase or a credit acceptance. I try, as when I'm ever at the dealership, I always thank the dealers, or the customer, I mean, and I know they appreciate that. My son does it if I'm not there. So it's very important. And I've seen a big change in a lot of the auctions. They're more dealer friendly, and they've always been, don't get me wrong, but they're really out there now in the lanes, hey, thanking everybody and you know, slapping our hands and saying good job, you know, and appreciate you being here today. And I know one thing, a lot of times I'll call an auction ahead of time that I hadn't been to for a while, and I'll say, do you care if I talk a few minutes before the sale? And they'll say, yeah, what do you got to talk about? I said, well, I'm with the NIADA, and I'd, you know, just like to thank the dealers that are members. And boy, they're so gracious. They'll let you do that. You know, I put in a plug for NIADA, and I tell the dealers, hey, here's what we're doing right now. We're watching some legislative things, but we need your help, you know. And so that's an important for us. That the auctions really work with us on that.
Sure.
So.
Chris, did you have anything to add to that?
You know, again, the technology, we're not buying as many as we'd like to either online. It's something that we're working really hard, or I'm working really hard on trying to get better at it. Again, the condition reports and the quality of condition reports and the consistency of condition reports are certainly helping me get comfortable with it. You know, the one thing I will say is, for me, again, with trying to buy that $5,000-$6,000 car, it's so tough because most of them are showing up the day of the auction, and it's hard for me to buy that car without a condition report online. So that's really the struggle that I've got, but I know that's a struggle you guys are trying to overcome as well. But if you could solve that for me, that would help a ton.
Yeah, no question. Well, and I think, you know, you raise an interesting point too of being in a position to buy stuff online, and I think that's a huge convenience. But dealers are old school. I mean, they want to touch it, feel it. They want to feel the wheel. They want to smell the inside. They want to pop the trunk, look under the hood. You know, do all the typical things that you'd want to do. So what? And I'm trying to ask the questions from the auctions perspective too. And if you guys want to weigh in with certain questions, feel free. This is your opportunity to ask, you know, dealers who are operating on the front lines every single day about some of these, you know, adaptability things. But what would make you feel more comfortable with buying vehicles online? Because earlier we were talking a little bit about the arbitration process and some of the recourse that you may have with that in terms of, you know, whether it's a 7-day or a 14-day and some of the limitations on, you know, you have to have, you know, $500 of, you know, repair work that needs to be done, and talk a little bit about that and some of the things that can make you guys feel more comfortable with going ahead and pulling the trigger online, knowing that there is recourse for you. Sure.
Obviously, I'd feel more comfortable if that $500 number was considerably lower. But another thing I'll throw out too is I don't think there's a cap, but I've certainly brought one or two in the past where there were, you know, several, not one, you know, issue where there was a $400 issue. There may have been 3 or 4. But again, getting our if there was a way to place a cap on our exposure once we buy that vehicle online, it would be very helpful. Mm-hmm. Again, when you're buying a $5,000 or $6,000 car and you make a $2,000 mistake, you get in trouble pretty quickly. But for me, that's really the big thing. Again, the condition reports that are available, from what I'm seeing, are very good. They're very consistent. There are mistakes from time to time, but that's just going to happen. But for the most part, very satisfied with the condition reports. Just wish there were more of them. If there was somehow some way to get all the vehicles that are running through the lanes that day to have some type of assurance as far as post-sale inspection or arbitration is concerned, or a condition report there.
Because I think all of you guys are doing the post-sale inspections,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Every vehicle we buy goes through post-sale.
Yeah, with that, we buy every bit. We don't buy red light, we buy green light. And I think that anywhere the auctions have so improved on these PSIs, they're just lifesaver for us. And so we can go buy a lot of cars. If we get there late or whatever, we don't feel bad about not being able to look that close at the car because it's a green light. We put a post sale on everything that we buy, and that's been fantastic. And I guess buying online would make me more comfortable now because of the post sale inspections. But it just on the condition reports, it's just still, what kind of body damage is it? What is this? And that's what I'm trying to fill out. But I feel very comfortable with the post sales and the arbitrations that are now at the auctions.
I agree with both of them, what they're saying on that. I think we're doing our homework a lot sooner than we used to. We used to go to the sale that sale day and look at cars and figure out what we're going to buy, but now we're ahead of the game. And the auctions really work well with us. I can call the fleet manager if I'm buying some fleet cars, and he'll tell me what they got, what numbers are running, and any condition reports, or he'll send them to me. So that's important, And I think just all the new technology, it's just like Chris and Keith said, it's just for us to get used to it. But the VIN scanner is really neat. I mean, you can you'll watch guys now, nobody has a book, they're all walking up and checking the VIN,
It's all technological. Talk to me a little bit about your specific markets in terms of how many auctions you may have in, like a 50 square mile radius around your dealership, and some of the things that you look for and why you do business with the auctions that you're doing business with. Talk a little bit about that.
Within 50 miles, we've got one. Within within 100 miles, we've got 2 or 3. And, I'm driving, 200-300 miles, and that extends it out to several more.
Well, and I think that's a good point. By extension, even though you may be limited geographically to how many auctions you have around you, with the advent of technology and the ability to buy vehicles online, I mean, you can be in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and buy cars from California. So, again, whether it's on-site or online, what are some of the things that are driving you to do business with the companies that you're doing business with?
Again, I think it all goes back to relationships. Whenever there is a hiccup, we had a situation a couple of weeks ago where we bought a car online. I made a mistake. The auction made a mistake. But again, because of the relationship I had with that auction, I accepted responsibility for my mistake. They accepted responsibility for their mistake, and everybody was happy. So when you have situations like that and you can work with folks and they're being fair and you're being fair to them, that's really the key to it. And that's and obviously the other thing is the quantity and quality of cars that they've got has a big impact on whether I'm going to drive 200 or 300 miles or not. So I do try to check the pre-sale list, before I head out.
Keith?
Yeah, we're very fortunate because we're in the Austin area. So 2.5 hours we can be in Dallas, 2.5 hours we can be in Houston, hour 45 or whatever, we're in San Antonio. So we've got some pretty good sized auctions around us. And the good thing about that I like is I used to buy cars out of Florida, and I'd buy transport loads, is if we do have a problem with the PSI or we do have an issue, I get the car back quicker so I can check it out, because you can do a 7-day or a 14-day post-sale. Well, sometimes you're waiting on a transportation company. It might be out of another state, could be 6 or 7 days before you actually get the car. So I love doing business, 3 hours away or whatever, try to get the car back as quick as I can. And I always say they're time sensitive. The auction cars, when they come in, all my guys stop whatever they're doing, jump on the auction car to make sure how the post-sale went, to make sure we're all right, so we get back with the arbitration department as quick as we can. And then, like Chris said, it all goes back to relationships. I have a lot of dealers that say, I don't like this auction, I don't like that auction. I said, how many times have you been there? Well, I went there once, I didn't like it. You got to build relationships with the auctions as well on our end, not just on their end. So I think when auctions get to know you and you continue to do business there, they kind of know what your business model is, they know what you look for. You know when you call, what person to call, to the contact to contact. So anyway, I think it's just, like Chris said, it's big about relationship.
For sure. Arlan, do you have anything to add on that?
I agree with that. You know, the relationships are very important, but we're about 100 miles to any auction around us. We're in a tri-state area of South Dakota, Nebraska, and Iowa, right on the border. So there's
Major
one-
metropolitan areas?
Yeah, there's one in South Dakota that we use, and there's the rest of them are in Nebraska. And then every once in a while, I'll drive further, like 300 miles. But normally those are the auctions, and there's 4 within our reach of 100 miles. So I normally don't transport because I've got a lot of drivers that like to do that. So we just send drivers usually so I can have the cars back. We check them over right away. And I'm big on inspections myself. I want the car ready for the customer, you know, clean, ready to go.
So it sounds like you're actually willing to spend a little bit more to buy the vehicle with the post-sale inspections. Now, is that because you don't want to spend that time in reconditioning? Talk about why you do the PSIs.
The reason we do is exactly that. You know, there's several reasons. We don't want to get the car back and, you know, discover something and then have to send it back to the auction or deal with the repairs. But again, the key to us, or for us right now, and for most dealers, are being able to get the car, get it reconditioned, get it on the lot, and turn it. And that's our biggest struggle right now, is getting that car in, getting it reconditioned properly, and getting it out. So yes, we will definitely pay more for a vehicle that we feel like that, you know, we can purchase, get back, have to do very little reconditioning to, and then get it on the lot and move.
And each of you have your own service departments with multiple mechanics. I mean, do you guys have any questions about that? Because that, to me, would seem to be a big issue or a big opportunity for auctions in terms of just the dealer's interest and ability and willingness to pay incrementally a little bit more for a better reconditioned vehicle post-sale inspection at the auction. So do you guys have any questions about that or any kind of follow-up feedback?
I'll throw this out. We're spending, you know, right at $1,500 a car reconditioning them on average. So we can certainly spend a little more and get a car that's not needing as much reconditioning.
Right.
Yeah, Steve, I'll add to that too, because I'm in a 20 group, and you know, we sit around for a couple of days talking. The main topic always is recon. That is our biggest issue as dealers, is trying to get the cars, once to purchase it, to the lot. It's just parts are taking longer, everything just, I don't know, it just drags along. We work on it. We have meetings all the time just at my company trying to figure out how to speed that up. So like Chris said, if you find a car at the auction that's in great shape and ready to go and it passes post-sale, we're in good shape. The problem is that car just brings prime money. Yeah. So there again, I got to go back to to keep it in my model, to the little higher mileage car, and there goes my recon expense and time down. So.
Yep. Arlan?
Yeah, the recon is really important, and it is, especially, and Keith and Chris both will tell you that. If in the buy here, pay here business, so many dealers don't understand, you want that car to run, you want it fixed, you want it right. You treat that customer just like your retail customer, because you don't want to have a problem. They'll pay you if the car's running. But the auctions too, they're like with the one auction I go to, they've got probably one new car dealer that runs between 200 and 300 cars a week down there at this sale. And I've got to know their manager, and he'll say, you know, that car over there is okay, but you might not want to look at a couple of these here because we've had them back and forth to sale and they're not working out. So that helps out too. You know, they'll kind of give you the heads up of which ones to look at too. So, and I buy probably a little higher priced car sometimes. I get up in the $8,000-9,000 for the subprime. So it just varies on what you're doing and how you're doing business. But it does help though to have them reconditioned. That's the key. And cleaning them. You know, people like that. Even if they're buying that lower priced buy here, pay here car, they like it if it's ready to go because that's their chariot, you know. So.
And I'll speak to that. I don't know if there's a solution to this as well, but one of the biggest issues for me, and it's so frustrating whenever you look at a condition report the night before, you've picked a car out, you go to it, and you're certain you're going to buy it, and you open it up, and it's been detailed, and they've gotten the carpets wet and the seats wet and shut the doors on it, and now it smells. So, you know, that's you know, again, we don't find that a ton, but that is one of the frustrating things that I deal with whenever I'm there on the type of vehicles that we're looking at.
Very true.
So we're talking a lot about the condition of the vehicle and whether it's a post-sale inspection or how it's represented on the block. Keith, you mentioned you don't buy anything that's not a green light vehicle. So the condition of the vehicle is a big issue for independent dealers, not only when you're buying a vehicle in the auctions, but how you're representing that vehicle to your customers when you sell it. So talk a little bit about the presence of vehicle history reports, some of the Carfaxes, the auto checks, the NIADA reports, and how those kind of representations are being factored into how you guys are buying cars as well.
Well, we don't buy anything with a brand. So if it's been damaged over 25%, flood history, stolen, recovered, any of that, we stay away from it. And that's one thing, out of all the years I've been doing this, I don't think I've ever run into an issue where we've purchased a car and it's been misrepresented in that way at the auction. You guys are great as far as tracking that and keeping up with it and keeping us abreast of it. And that has, as you said, has a big impact for us, because it helps us make a great buying decision, but then it helps us make a great selling decision as well, and it gives confidence to our customers because we do know what we're selling and how it's been represented, I guess.
Right.
I like to redefine the word frame, because you get these great cars that come through and they have frame damage, and how bad is the frame, and is it a safety issue, is it something, and that's the thing that's always puzzled me, because there's some great looking cars and a lot of dealers just scatter from them. The guy that's selling it can't get the money he needs for it, and of course he's trying to explain what the frame is, and so, but I think the auctions do a great job. All the years of buying, I can't remember a case that we've had where we've had a problem with a lawsuit, a problem with the customer, or an issue that would track back to the auction. So we do Carfaxes, we do look at that, and it's just been I have no problem at all with the auctions. I think they've done a wonderful job.
Good.
Yeah, I like the Carfaxes. We every car we retail or buy here, pay here, or subprime, everybody gets a Carfax for their car, and they like that. And of course, if I buy them at sale, there's a lot of times they're auto checked already. We show them that it's been auto checked. So both are good. They might miss something, but if it happens and comes up, customer comes back to us, we take care of it. I don't want things going to arbitration. We want to make the customer happy, and believe me, it builds a good relationship with your customer. And I do a lot of business too, a little different than some buy here, pay here. I got hooked up with 2 different tribes, and I'm on their vendor list, so I get checks from every entity of each tribe. So that makes it a nice deal, and the tribes know that I take care of those customers. I treat everybody the same, whether it's a retail or a buy here, pay here, or whatever. And I think that's important, and that's what the auctions do to us dealers. They're treating us a lot, good too. So that it's a good rapport all the way down.
Yeah.
And to speak to that too real quick, one of the auctions we go to, it's really nice. They have started, in fact, they started about a year or so ago, putting a copy of the auto check with our paperwork on every vehicle we purchase.
Oh, wow.
And that's really nice. Really nice benefit.
So before we open it up to questions from the floor, knowing that you have kind of a captive audience here of remarketers and auctions, any kind of final thoughts or comments that you'd want to just express to them in terms of how we can collaboratively work together, going forward to address some of these issues?
Certainly anything that we can do as NIADA or as dealers, we're more than willing and excited to try to assist and addressing some of these issues. And again, just selfishly, for me, being able to buy vehicles that are ready to go, if there's, keeping our reconditioning costs down and keeping that time down, again, turn from the time that we purchase the vehicle to the time we can deliver it, because customers get extremely impatient whenever you've located a vehicle for them and you've identified it, you've purchased it, and now it's going to take you, a week and a half to get everything done that needs to be done to it. So again, those are the big issues for us.
Yep.
Yeah, I wish the auctions could find a way to make some of these franchise dealers release more of their used cars, but I don't know how y'all can pull that one off. But I think it's just more vehicles to look at, more selection. I think overall, I really think that everybody does a great job at the auctions. We're so fortunate to have them. Like I say, I don't know what we would do if we didn't have auctions to go to purchase our inventory. We wouldn't be able to sell cars. So, it all kind of works together. But overall, I just think it's a great job that auctions do. And like I say, NIADA is always here. If y'all want our input or questions, we'll be glad to answer any of that.
I agree with those, and then I told Jeff I was going to give him a little plug maybe, so, he's always telling me to do something, but guys, this used car news that they put out all the time, it goes to all the dealers. In the last one, they had the dealer's guide to all the auctions around. I think that's really great. It's got everybody listed, so if you got a question, it tells about simulcast, it tells about everything that each auction offers. So, I mean, everybody's trying to help us, that's great. Like used car news or any of these places, they're just, everybody's working together, and I think that's important. It wasn't one time dealers were kind of like Keith said, the dealer says, well, I'm not going back to that auction. I was there once and they didn't treat me right, I had one of my wholesale buyers, he said, I went to this auction, they gave me terrible numbers. I said, it was the first time you were there. Let me call them, we'll get, I'll get you in the next time, and we'll get, I don't think the numbers are as important as if you have the car ready and ready to sell it. Like when I take a car that have had 90 days, I'm on that 90-day turn, either I'm repping it or one of my guys is repping it, but the auctioneers, most of them know that when I'm bringing the car there, it's ready to sell. They'll tell the dealers before they even sell the car, this guy brings the car, it's 90 days old, it's been on his lot, it's ready to sell. Just wash it if you need to, but I've always detailed them before I take them, and believe me, that makes a difference. I learned that many years ago from an old boy. He says, detail everything, detail to retail, so.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a good point. So at this time, does anybody from the audience have any questions they'd like to share or comments? Looks like we got somebody right here.
Somebody's got a hand up. While I'm walking back there, I did have one question. With China at odds with Japan, how will that affect buy here, pay here?
We're
Okay, we'll go to the next
we're
question
anticipating
now.
a huge impact due to that.
Where was the question?
Yeah.
Okay. As a consigner, I noticed a couple things that you were talking about reconditioning. To us, we do a lot of reconditioning. And how do we know what you dealers, what's important to you to be able to sell it? So what kind of reconditioning is important and which is not?
That's a great question.
It is a good question.
You want to take that one?
For us, and NIADA has come out with a certified program as well, and we were doing it prior to that in a little different format, but we want the tires to be 5/32 or better. If it needs any paint work, we're going to take care of it. Anything significant, if it's not working, we're going to fix it for the most part. Now that's how we operate. That's not how everybody operates. Mm-hmm. But we're going to pretty much fix everything. We're not going to make it brand new, but if it's got a squeaky wheel, we're going to take care of it.
Well, and I think that's a good point too. A very good question. In terms of, do you guys offer warranties on your vehicles?
We do.
Yeah. So all the buy here, pay here, and the lease here, pay here dealers up here anyway offer some kind of warranty protection after the fact. So I think any kind of reconditioning that you're doing ahead of time has to kind of speak to that. So, engine, transmission, obviously all the safety related issues, open recall notices, that's, kind of a catchphrase these days in terms of recognizing some of those issues. But yeah, I think anything that can speak to the ability of the dealer to provide a better product or service after the sale and make a more reliable vehicle for the consumer would obviously.
Yeah, and I think like on our end with the cheaper model of vehicle, our big deal is safety and drivability. We put a 2-year, 24,000 mile car warranty on every car we sell. It's my warranty. It's in-house. But I think the safety and drivability, and I guess that question is kind of a tough question, especially on the cheaper end, because we're trying not to spend as much as we can, as we have to, but yet we want the safety and the drivability. But I guess that'd have to go kind of per dealer and kind of where they kind of want to be and what their model would look like on the cheaper end.
Arlan, you got any final thoughts on that?
No, the reconditioning, it's different things, but, if I look at a car, even if I'm trading for one and the car is just beat up on one end to the other and that, the car hasn't been taken care of. And I've been at sales where we'll pull a hood open and look at a car and the oil's black and it's a quart low in oil and you're thinking, maybe this car is the one we want to buy, has it been taken care of, and a lot of, even the wholesalers that take cars to sale, they don't think about that sometimes. They don't ever open the hood.
Yeah, that's true.
But I will say this also is consigners like yourself and other dealers, we can tell your car. I mean, we know when it's your car because we're there every day and we know the cars that are being reconditioned and the ones that aren't, and we appreciate that. So.
Okay, and then my last question is, do you view repossessed vehicles any differently than, say, like off lease or?
I don't. To me, a vehicle's a vehicle. I look at the condition report. I look at the vehicle, and it makes no difference to me whatsoever.
Yeah, it makes no difference to me either. It's just amazing how much money sometimes the repos bring more, and everybody kind of runs to that lane. But really, with the PSI and, like I say, the condition report and whatever, it really doesn't matter.
No, I agree there. I think the repos are fine. And I know I always announce even to my customers, if I've painted a fender, I've painted a door, whatever I've done to it, I like to be up front, and somebody will say, you don't have to do that. That car's 5 years old or 10 years old. Well, I still like to be up front with them, and they appreciate that. And even at a sale, I'll say, hey, I had to paint the hood was delamped, or whatever it might be. And they're okay with it, I just think being honest with them, and even with the consigners or at the sale or anywhere, I think that's the big thing. And we enjoy buying cars from consigners that bring cars constantly at the sale. We do, because we know your cars, and we have a good feeling about that.
Definitely.
So one final thought to that. I think, being a dealer myself for a number of years, I think we all kind of share the philosophy up here that anytime a customer in the near future after purchasing a vehicle brings your car back for any kind of mechanical or service work, we're just going to write the check and fix it. We're not gonna worry about, I'm not gonna fight with somebody over, a $200, deal. So anything that you can do on the front end that helps keep the dealer from being in that position is helpful. I think we had another question right here.
Yes. First, I wanted to say thank you, gentlemen, for traveling from your business to be here today. We are listening to you. We hear what you're saying, and thank you very much. I'd like to direct this question to Mr. Hagler, mainly because you touched on frame damage a moment ago. And we've had countless hours of discussion within the industry about frame damage and what is, what isn't, for many years. You are one of the ones that is not afraid of a frame damaged vehicle. Is there something we could do that makes it easier for you, whether it's referencing a point of impact, a severity code, something like that, that gives you more buyer's confidence on a frame damaged vehicle?
Yeah, I think so, John. I think that it more of a description of what it is, because when it just comes through and it just says frame, that's an open-ended deal. Our big deal is it a safety issue. That's the whole thing about us selling the car. If the frame, something happened that caused a safety issue, if it's something, especially in the buy here, pay here, and again, I'm on the lower end of the spectrum, long as it's not a safety issue, things can be repaired and put back on and all that. That doesn't really matter to us. It's just the safety part of it. So if there's somehow you could define whether it's a safety issue or not, I don't know how you would do that. I think that would make cars bring a lot more money too, because you'd have more people buying them. Because that's what we do. First thing we do get home, we put it up on the lift if we do buy a frame, and everybody gets underneath it, and we make a decision whether that's one we're going to sell or we're going to take back to the auction.
Mm-hmm. But I do think the issue of the frame representation is a key issue, because at my dealership, we did not buy a vehicle with a branded title at all. We just didn't want to hassle with it. We didn't want to have to deal with, how you represent that to the customer. We just didn't want to go down that road. So any vehicle that was represented at auction that had frame damage or any mention of the word, we just looked the other way and looked at 10 vehicles down the road. So I do think it's an issue, and I think in terms of how you're representing, I know I've gotten a lot of feedback from dealers who have said, hey, I was at auction and I was about to buy a Ford Explorer, and at the last minute, the auctioneer leaned over and somebody came over and said, hey, there's a nick on the frame. It's not really frame damaged or something that would lead to a branded title necessarily, but because the auctioneer said something about the frame, it then gets reported up to Carfax or to a vehicle history report. And now, you may have bought a vehicle that doesn't really have frame damage, but you would have bought it. No, do you know what I'm saying? So I think that's a challenge.
Yeah.
And I know there's been a number of conversations about that whole deal.
And we would be more likely to buy a car if it was tow hook type.
Yeah,
frame
tow
damage.
Yeah, we get one of those.
But again, like Steve said, the thing that concerns us is when it shows up on the Carfax or the auto check and you've got to turn around and disclose that to the customer. It's hard to explain that to them.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
Very much.
Good question. Looks like we have another one.
Yes, gentlemen, I work in a small auction in the state of Maine and New Hampshire, and what we've found, I am the roadman, is a lot of dealers in the last 2 years have got into the as-is business in state inspection-only sales. And I think you're going to find the last couple months, we're beginning to get the cars that you need, whereas prior to this, for the last few years, they've been retailing these cars. Now, whether they do a good job or not, I don't know. I know in the beginning, the new car dealers, the people that they work for them, weren't very good at, taking a sales up on a BMW certified car and then going to a 130,000 mile caravan and selling that car successfully. But they figured it out. And they had to do it because of the lack of new car business at that time. They were just squeezing all the juice out of the orange to try to survive. That's changing, and it's beginning to change now. I've noticed it in the last 4 weeks. I think in the near future, we're getting more cars that you would buy as of late. And I think once they get to a point where they're doing a little bit better, they'll start to release those cars.
That's great news.
Yeah, I think they're going to hopefully release on my end of it, because I can see subprime is definitely coming back. It's got its head up again, and I know new car dealers that I'm talking to, they're getting people financed with a $500 beacon and different things like that. So with subprime coming back up, I'm hoping they're going to release some of these other cars, like you said, they were keeping the cash out and all that, because they can make it up in the subprime.
Well, I think that's a good point too. As new car sales begin to, continue to increase, people are going to be trading in their old vehicles, and hopefully we'll start seeing a lot more of those trade units in the inventory.
We're seeing more and more trucks now. A year ago, trucks were a short supply, I think, all over the country. And now all of a sudden, the dealers are really selling a lot of new trucks, so they're getting piled up, and some of the new car dealers are still holding on, but they're starting to sell them, and I think you're going to see more come through the auctions because they can't afford to keep them too long,
Yeah, I think we just need new car dealers to do a lot of business, because that's who manufactures our used cars. So
Yeah, that's
hopefully
true.
they'll get going.
I think we got another one.
Yes, for quite a number of years, the auctions have done a great job in screening the cars that might have brands on titles, whether it be salvage, junk, flood, reconstructed. They are checking the mileage to make sure that the mileage is right. But more recently, dealers that I'm aware of have begun using smartphones or other technological equipment to check not only for brands on titles, but also accident records that might appear on AutoCheck or Carfax. Will you all buy cars with accident records? Do you check for accident records? And if you do buy those cars, how are you adjusting the price that you might offer on those cars?
That's a great question. Keith, do you want to tackle that one first?
Well, we definitely disclaim it and tell, write it everywhere we can to let them know that that is an issue before we even start talking price or anything, to let them know if that's something they're interested in buying, and then we let them know we checked it out for safety and all that. So we will adjust the price, but fortunately in Buy Here, Pay Here, we don't have to do a lot of price adjusting. We just price the down payment, and they'll buy the car if you lower the down payment. So we usually work it on the down payment end on one of those vehicles. But the main thing is doing your paperwork correctly and letting them know up front that there was an issue.
Yeah, and I think the key is disclosure. I don't think there's any state or federal law that mandates that you have to disclose whether or not a vehicle has been in an accident. You do have to reveal if there is in fact a brand on the title of some sort, or at least it was in the state of Florida. I know states vary in terms of some of their state legislative statutory requirements there. But Arlan, did you have anything else on
Yeah,
that?
we have a body shop also, so I'll take that car or whatever sport utility, and I'll have the body guys check it out for me. And then I explain to the customer, here's what happened. It had a door replaced, or it had a fender and a hood replaced. I mean, and customers understand that because they've all been in an accident probably themselves at one time or another. But I think they like the fact that we're being honest with them. You know, the used car dealers many years ago had a bad reputation. You know, you sold bad cars, but today it's completely changed. I think we're as strong as any of the new car dealers on, you know, trying to be reputable. And I know through the years we've met with different regulations with NIADA, with regulators, and they're impressed that we're on top of things. We want to work with them. We don't want to sell people bad cars or branded titles and not telling them, you know. So I think that's all changing. And then auctions are helping us a lot. Like I say, with AutoCheck, Carfax coming through the auctions, that helps too. So,
Yeah, one thing we do on that is we have a form that they have to sign it. They have to take it and get the car looked at. Some decline to do it, but we offer them on every vehicle that they look at and want to buy to take it somewhere and get it checked out, and that's really helped. I mean, at least for us to know. And then, like I say, we offer the free Carfax as well.
Well, and I think it also speaks to the reconditioning and the service that the vehicles go through before you sell it. And I think like frame damage, you know, accident, I mean, it's still a very vague, nebulous. I mean, you could have a little fender bender, or, you know, as my daughter, you know, wrecked her car, get about $7,500 worth of damage. So, I mean, the spectrum on accidents and how you define an accident is pretty broad. So when you're selling a vehicle that has been in an accident, it's a great opportunity as a dealer to underscore, well, Mr. Customer, I understand it has been in an accident, but the auction that I bought it through ran it through a post-sale inspection, and here are all the things that they did to that vehicle to look at it and inspect it. It's gone through our own reconditioning process. It's been through our own service department. These are the things that we've done, and, you know, we want you to make a well-informed decision based on all the facts. And I think when it comes to accidents, that's kind of the deal. So, anything else on that?
The only thing I'd say is, as far as wholesale value to us, if it defines the accident fairly clearly on the Carfax or the AutoCheck, and, you know, it says minor accident, it's not going to have a big effect on me as far as what I'm going to pay for the car. But if it says, you know, moderate to, you know, there's no definition, it just says accident, I'm probably going to back off, you know, what I'm willing to pay.
Yep.
okay.
And the other thing I'll say is, keep in mind, we're buying $5,000 and $6,000 vehicles. If we were buying $15,000 and $20,000 vehicles, I would, definitely look at it differently then. Whether it's minor or, you know, undefined or whatever, it's going to have more of an impact on what we're willing to pay for the car.
Yeah, I think it has little effect on our interest in buying that vehicle. But to Chris's point, the more expensive the vehicle it is, you know, the diminished value is hard to discuss with the customer. So we'd probably be less willing to buy a vehicle, you know, a Cadillac or, you know, something that has been in an accident that isn't, you know, specifically quantifiable, or, you know, maybe on the vehicle history report says, you know, minor front end accident or something. But I think to Chris's point, the lower the purchase price of the vehicle, probably less of an issue.
Okay, just a final question on the lease here, pay here. Average miles on those vehicles, can you define that?
Probably about 85,000 miles.
About 85,000. And then how do you set the residual on those?
We look at Black Book. We actually, for example, if we're looking at we've got a 2007 car and we're doing a 3-year lease, we're going to pull up Black Book for a 2004 car with the miles that it should have at the end of that 3-year lease, and that's kind of how we set our residual.
In about 3 years, is that, do you have an average amount of time? Or?
Our average term is, I think, 33 months.
All right. And any other questions? I'm sorry, did you want to add anything to that? Or?
No, sir.
All right. How about a nice round of applause for our independent auto dealer panel?
Thank you.
And great job.